Well, you probably didn't need another reason to not like Dr. Anthony Fauci, but I'm ready to give you just one more. Dr. Anthony Fauci is costing taxpayers $15 million. Now you're probably wondering why. It's for, even though he's a private citizen, it's for a security detail. It's an incredible chunk of cash, obviously, that's being funded by you, the taxpayers at home. And well, we only know about this because of the great folks over at Open the Books. They've been doing all of the digging into this. And of course, it is very enlightening and appreciated as always. So let's bring in their investigative reporter, Amber Todorov. She joins us now. Amber, thank you for this. The story is very interesting because we aren't the biggest Fauci fans. And so to see that taxpayers are still paying for security, even though he's a private citizen, it sounds outrageous. Break this all down for us. This is very, very important.
Yes, Fauci has gotten a lot of money from the American people over the years. He's retired at the very top of the federal pay scale at $480,000 a year, a record. His pension, we estimate, based on uh, what we know about how pensions work, is probably $355,000 a year. And now we know through a FOIA request for agreements between the Human Health and Services Agency and the U.S. Marshals Service that the taxpayers are funding an additional $15 million since January 2023 for his personal security, including transportation around DC or wherever else he might be going.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because you wouldn't think that's the case given the fact that he's a private citizen, but it looks like you guys have all the receipts. It's actually open on openthebooks.com right now so people could go check that out themselves. So why are we allowing this? Why is Dr. Fauci receiving this level of security? Because well, he actually might not be receiving it, to be fair. This might have just recently ended. You guys can't really tell right now. We would have to do some more digging into that. I'm sure we'll find out with the new administration coming in. But why is this happening in the first place? How is he able to get away with this?
So Fauci has claimed for a long time that he is on the receiving end of various death threats or other threats to his person. Uh, we don't know really the extent to like the seriousness of those threats. A lot of people, unfortunately, of course, we would never want something terrible to happen to Fauci or anyone, but we don't know the extent to that. When we look at someone like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who also has documented death threats, 34 cases documented during his campaign where people were texting him and calling him and saying that they wanted to kill him. He did not get protective services from the Secret Service. Fauci did. Uh, we just don't know the nature of that. And we also don't know, as you mentioned, if his contract for private protection has been renewed. It ended in September of this year, but it might have been renewed, and we don't know that if it has or not.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if that was renewed because I think American taxpayers need to know. A lot of people get death threats, and they're very wrong, obviously. But when taxpayers are coughing up the expense, I do find that problematic, especially because members of Congress don't even get that level of security details, and a lot of them actually have to pay privately, pay their own security if they do bring security to events. So I'd be interested to see that. Now, I also want to learn more about this. So this report reveals that Dr. Anthony Fauci's protection comes from a unique agreement between HHS and the U.S. Marshals. Can you explain that agreement a little bit for our audience?
Right. So this agreement is a little bit mysterious. We don't know of any other similar agreement where between the HHS and the U.S. Marshals. Basically, the HHS has agreed to pay the expenses for the U.S. Marshals to give protection for Fauci for this length of time, about a year and a half. What the U.S. Marshals usually does is protect the judiciary and judges, witnesses, etc. That is their primary uh, task. So it is a little odd that they are in charge of guarding Fauci.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what do you recommend in regards to oversight? How do you recommend the government kind of make this a little bit more transparent? Because you guys did the digging on this story to find out these details, but the American people want to know, like, for an example, is this still ongoing? So, how do you create oversight, especially now there's a new administration coming in?
Right. So there needs to be a lot more transparency at Health and Human Services.
Mm.
As we have seen the past year, this agency is rogue. It is purposefully hiding information with FOIA evasion. And it's really, really hard to get information. What the next administration should be doing is doing a hard audit, sort of like the Twitter files, and looking through what exactly is going on. How are decisions actually being made? Why was it decided that Fauci should get a year and a half of protection and chauffeurs around DC? We don't really know, and we should know. We should know what our government is doing with our money.
Yeah, and it's fair to ask those simple questions. And again, to our audience, you guys are doing incredible work over at openthebooks.com. I highly recommend everyone go check this piece out. You won't regret it. You guys have been doing the digging into Fauci for quite some time too. So if you're also at home looking to catch up, it's a great resource to do so. Amber, thank you so much for joining me today. I greatly appreciate it.
Great, thank you very much.